Greetings from the economic capital of the country, ladies and gentlemen. You're on to My Media Prime and you're watching Prime News, the Monday edition of the news. My name is Gienda Belgian Blanche King. We are live from Studio A at Fengo Drombange in Douala. The World Football Governing Body, FIFA, has inflicted a heavy 5-year ban on the president of the Confederation of African Football, Ahmad Ahmad. This follows allegations of huge financial mismanagement levied on him. Ahmad, who is also vice president of FIFA, is accused of having gone against Article 15 of FIFA's Penal Code of Ethics. The Malagasy football administrator was elected into the top job in 2017. He has been replaced by CAF's first vice president, Constant Mari, on interim basis. Born on January 14, 1958, the Congolese football administrator and member of the FIFA Council was in September 2015 appointed as the chairman of FIFA's task force against racism and discrimination. This development comes at a time when the institution is at the verge of elections. The governor of Littoral region, Samuel Dieudonné Ivaha Diboua, has prohibited the use of bags in supermarkets, bars and restaurants. This is contained in a communique signed recently following the explosion of a locally fabricated explosive. Details with Fonquinta in the following report.
As part of measures to fight insecurity in the nation's economic capital, Governor of the Littoral region, Samuel Dieudonné Ivaha Diboua, in a press released at the weekend, prohibited citizens from entering bars, restaurants and supermarkets with backpacks. According to Governor Ivaha Diboua, the order, which began at the weekend, is to protect citizens and their goods in public spaces, thereby calling on the population to be vigilant and report any suspicious action to law enforcement officials. The governor's decision comes after the explosion of an improvised explosive on Wednesday, November 18, 2020, at the Rye neighborhood in Bonaberi, Douala, for subdivision. The blast that left 2 seriously injured, one on the face and another on the leg, left many Douala city dwellers worried, as cases of explosions have been on the rise in some parts of the country, like Yaoundé, Bamenda, and recently Douala.
Barrister Tamfu Richard has been given a suspended sentence of 6 months by the Bonaja Court of First Instance. He was found guilty of destruction of public properties and assault on police officers. This means Barrister Tamfu Richard and colleague will not serve the 6 months jail term unless further criminal offences are brought forth against them within this time period. Barrister Tamfu and colleague are now free after paying the sum of 100,000 francs demanded by the Bonaja Court of First Instance. Let's now have the reaction of some lawyers after the sentence earlier today.
More like a clash of the titans. There was the force of the bench and the force of the bar. And so I think the judge saw that there was too much tension in the air and thought that it's what we call in English, in pidgin parlance, a draw game. Everybody went home satisfied. But I want to say that it is not necessary for that clash to always happen, because that kind of force can get out of hand and the entire nation will suffer. There's every reason for us, when we have this kind of problem, for the bar and the bench to meet in Wicklow and discuss and solve the problem. It wasn't necessary. But the procedure I saw in court today was a procedure a little bit different from what we have Anglophone section of the country. The 2 gentlemen pleaded not guilty, and we expected the court to produce the witnesses so that you could give evidence of what happened, and then the accused persons will have an answer to give. But surprisingly, it was the Procureur de la République who gave the evidence and gave the exhibit in court. That is not the procedure. And so the aspect of cross-examination, examination in chief and re-examination was not seen in this court. So it was more like a miscarriage of justice. I think there's so much for us to learn from all of this. It was a horrid one too. I can conclude. It was a horrid decision for people to go home and reduce the tension in the air. They have been given 6 months suspended sentence for 3 years. It means they can go home, and that if they commit this kind of offense again, then they would have to serve the 6 month sentence before they are prosecuted. So they will have to walk home knowing that there's a charge on their head. They have also paid a charge of 100,000 francs for the cost of the proceedings?
For me, I think it's a sham. And when I say it's a sham, I mean that it's a decision that the whole process was carried out in a way that violated the basic fundamental principles of criminal trials. Because to us, and according to the Criminal Procedure Code, when a man says he's not guilty, it puts the burden of proof on the prosecution. The prosecution is now required to adduce evidence through witnesses, right, which is going to lay the foundation whether or not there is a case to answer. But in this case, once the accused person said they were not guilty, the court proceeded to allow the state counsel to read a report which formed the evidence of the prosecution. And obviously, when there is a process like this in criminal trials, the accused always has a right to cross-examination. Cross-examination means it's an opportunity for the defense to challenge the facts as advanced by the prosecution. And in this case, when the state counsel reads a report, you would have expected that he had taken the role of a witness. Mm-hmm. And so he should have gotten into the box to be cross-examined, which is not a possibility. And that is why we say that the whole process was a sham, because the court was like in a rush to deliver, to deal with the case. And justice rushed is always justice crushed. And as you would have seen in this case, the issue is not whether the sentence was suspended. The issue is whether the sentence ought to have been meted on the law. For us from the English-speaking bar, we were arguing that the strike should have been for at least a month. Because it is not the fact that people have been released that is important. It is the fact that they were arrested in the first place. It is the fact that they were brutalized in the court hall. That is what is important for us. And that you can call people who are trained to handle criminals in detention to come and beat up lawyers in the court hall. You see, when we are raising our voice today, some people think that we say this because we are lawyers. But what they have started doing will get to a situation where people will come into this courtroom and beat magistrates and judges. That is what we are saying. And when that happens, then there's a total breakdown of rule of law.
At least 2 people have been confirmed dead and several others injured after a fatal road accident that occurred on Sunday, November 22 at Budgetary along the stretch of road linking Rai and Dobo in the Douala 4 municipality. The accident that involved a 19-seater traveling bus, motorbikes and a blue Advances car has been blamed on high-speed, reckless driving and the non-usage of a safety belt, which could have altered the tragedy. The 2 who were severely injured gave up the ghost on the way to the hospital. It is worth noting that in Douala, chieftain of the Littoral region, Budgetary stretch of road is said to be the deadliest, recording the highest number of deaths in the city. Away from that, Minister of Defense, accompanied by the Delegate General for National Security and the Director of Intelligence Service, held a walking visit to the Northwest on Friday to assess military strategies on the ground as instructed by the Head of State, Commander-in-Chief of Defense and Security Forces. During the meeting, Defense Minister Joseph Betty Asomo reiterated government's decision to provide effective and definite solution to the ongoing socio-political crisis in the 2 English-speaking regions of the country. Our reporter Charles Kibwa was present. He compiled the following report.
The Minister of Defense, Joseph Betty Asomo, accompanied by the Delegate General for National Security, Martin Bargangele, the Director of Intelligence Services, as well as officials of the Military High Command, held a walking visit to the Northwest to reaffirm authority of the state and assess strategies on the ground. The walking visit timely as the region is going through a security operation dubbed name Operation Clean Bamenda, eve of campaign for December 6 election and end of year festivities. Northwest Governor Aldov Lele Lafrique, welcoming the ministers and presenting the region, said there is relative improvement in the security situation of the region, but of resistance from separatists in some far-off areas. Minister Betty Asomo, in his words, said their presence, as instructed by the Head of State, Commander-in-Chief of Defense and Security Forces, attests the government resolve to provide an effective and definite solution to the ongoing crisis rocking the Northwest and Southwest region, which keep tormenting the people.
Notre mission, Monsieur le Gouverneur, il faut le dire, n'est pas de venir faire ici l'évaluation de l'action politique que le chef de l'État mène dans la gestion de cette situation de crise sécuritaire. Car vous le savez, en plus de la réponse sécuritaire, il y a également la réponse politique mise en œuvre par le chef de l'État et son gouvernement. C'est traduit il y a quelques mois par la tenue à Yaoundé du grand dialogue national, qui se traduit par la mise en place du plan de reconstruction, qui s'était déjà traduit par la création du DDR.
In an in-camera working session, defense forces really expressed their difficulties and challenges. Minister Betty Asomo and his team equally visited the Bamenda military hospital site at Maitri, while extended the head of state's encouragement to wounded soldiers for their bravery in fighting secessionist and non-state armed groups in the region.
An orientation budgetary debate of the Bamenda City Council that assembled development partners, traditional and municipal authorities equally took place in Bamenda over the weekend. Mayor Paul Achombong outlined his council plan of action for 2021, identifying hygiene and sanitation, road infrastructure and water supply as priority projects. Charles Kibwa completes the story.
The first ever budgetary orientation debate of the Bamenda City Council that assembled development partners, traditional and municipal authorities took place at the Bamenda Pakuvita Hall. During the orientation debate, Professor Mum Alucius, one of the participants, insists the City Council's approach involving everyone in the city plan of action is laudable in the ongoing decentralization process.
It is important that mayors and councillors understand precisely what the budget is by involving the citizens in the preparation of the budgetary process. Because when people participate in make drawing of the budget, they see themselves, find themselves in that budget and they own the budget.
Bamenda City Mayor Paul Achombong, outlining his council plan of action, identified hygiene and sanitation, road infrastructure and water supply as priority projects for 2021.
Priority lines of actions. And the first priority is sanitation, like we discussed. The second will be road infrastructure. And the third will be water.
The Bamenda City Council has acquired a new front head loader intends to use into the City Council priority projects.
This front wheel loader will actually function in all domains. One, it's going to function in the domain of road maintenance and the opening of new roads. It's going to function in the domain of clearing away garbage, which sometimes Izekam is reluctant to do. Three, is going to function in the way of serving the community wherever they may need it.
Has set up a tomatoes farm, encouraging farming groups with plans of setting up a tomatoes processing unit in future.
Away from the northwest region of the country, Professor Tanjung, pioneer head of Department for Journalism and Mass Communication at the University of Buea, has officially gone on retirement. The journalism scholar and researcher has been described as the Pope of journalism, one who did not fail to instill the right journalism values, as mentioned by some former students of the department. Clarice Ekowe reports.
The pioneer HOD of GMC at the University of Buea, Professor Tanjung, has officially gone on retirement after several years of journalism training of students. Taking place in Buea, this retirement banquet organized by some GMC ex-students, they say, is to honor a man who has not only been an academic mentor, but also acted as a father to many GMC students.
He's a transformer. He transformed something in me. I went there because I just wanted to be listened to on radio, but he gave me another, vision of what I was waiting for. That's why I started as a public relations officer. The first GMC student to be recruited as PRO in UB was Moki.
Also attended by friends and family members, the Pope, as he was also called, has been described as a humble and passionate scholar and researcher who secured victories for the department during his mandate as HOD.
As his boss, there was an occasion in which graduates of the Department of Journalism and Communication went for a national competitive exam, and all of them could enter past. and then it more or less marginalized the other competitors. That's the type of service you get.
He did not only teach, he taught people how to believe in themselves, how to share with one another, how to touch hearts, like I said. According to Tanjung, if he did anything without expressly implanting something for which posterity will keep writing on the crystal walls of people's hearts. If he didn't do that, then he had not touched hearts.
While talking to the press, Professor Tanjung expressed satisfaction with his journalism training up to his retirement age.
When I took James in my own fashion with George, we put benchmarks that the children must be extremely bright. And if you see all of them, don't joke. All my students are very, very bright. I'm just overwhelmed.
The GMC student also handed a cash of 1.5 million as retirement package to the Pope of Journalism. The event also saw the celebration of his 65th anniversary.
Yeah, on to Prime News on My Major Prime in Church News. The founder and general overseer of Paradise Baptist Church, Kmer, has been awarded a doctorate degree in divinity. Prophet Oborene received the multiple recognitions over the weekend from the Ambassador University and Seminary. Details with Tamfu Sidwan Dimbia.
He is not only being celebrated because he transformed lives through the preaching of the gospel, but because he has been the brain behind the rehabilitation of hundreds of internally displaced persons who escaped from gun battles in some parts of the Northwest and Southwest regions, the provision of food and assistance to physically challenged in the region. Prophet Oborene, described as a self-starter, now backs a doctorate degree in divinity from the Ambassador Seminary and University, Cameroun, African campus.
The Doctor of Divinity,
conferred on him by a college of Bible lecturers and instructors led by the President and Chancellor of the Seminary, Archbishop Dr. Anyereta Godfred, on Saturday, 21st November 2020. Prophet Dr. Oborene also received a Distinguished Honors Award from the Ambassador Seminary, Certificate of Ordination and International Ministerial License. Prophet Oborene thinks that other preachers must believe in God's guidance as they transform lives.
Make sure you are called by God and live to defend the calling. Integrity is very important in ministry. Patience is very important in ministry. And perseverance is very, very important in ministry. And one other thing that is very, very important is a sense of accountability and a sense of management and administration of the church.
Even though Prophet Oborene has always been a self-starter, his vision and commitment have been supported by his wife, Pastor Nambo Rose Epose Obo, whose commitment and workaholic nature has paid off as she received a bachelor's degree in Christian Religion from the Ambassador Seminary, Cameroun.
degree of Bachelor of Christian Religion.
Prophet Oborene's Paradise Baptist Church has branches across the nation and overseas.
In sports, Victoria United of Limbe came from behind to beat city rivals Option Sports Academy by 2-1 in a pre-season friendly match played at the community field in Limbe over the weekend. Sportsman Fabrice Keninga took note and was present during this encounter. He compiled the following report.
Victoria United of Limbe narrowly defeated ambitious Limbe-based club Option Sports Academy by 2-1 in a highly anticipated friendly game staged at the community field over the weekend. It was Option Sports Academy who opened the scoring barely 2 minutes into the game. The boys of new coach Njoku Barnabas had to fight hard but only benefited from an on goal to level scores. It was a palatable fixture for both sides as they continue fine-tuning tactics ahead of the upcoming season in the region. The entertaining encounter ended 2-1 in favor of Victoria United alias Opopo.
Of course, we are in a pre-season, at least we are playing our friendly games now to win, so the team is satisfied with the 2-1 victory. How will you assess your opening? Yeah, it's a good side, coming here, we don't really know that it's going to be a difficult match for us, and it was a balanced game. The two teams really put on what they could do. I think it was a good game. I can always say that they were offensive party, but did not work well.
That is why we won them. But not take nothing away from them. It was a good side.
So where will you improve your team?
Yeah, we have to improve in the midfield. I realized that my opponent win all the second ball. This is very, very dangerous for us. So we have to work towards that. It's not good when the ball comes back in the middle and we are not present. So we have to work the second ball.
Inspired the lost coach Kmer Ernest of Option Sports Academy is upbeat.
It's not really bad, but when your team no win, you cannot consider that it's a good day. It's a very bad day for us today. And I will still congratulate my boys. They put a good fight towards the end. So we have to go back to our drawing board, see what was lacking, see what will be the way forward. So it was a nice game. Okoko is not a junior side. Okoko is a bigger side. It's a heavyweight. I think you can see for their side they use almost 18 players. We use 2 teams, and now by using 2 teams, the game will not be balanced. You understand? Because we want to see some of our players. But I know I told you the other last time that we are prepared for the championship. We know the people that will play. By playing this friendly match, we can know who is who in our team.
Both sides are gearing up for the new football season in the Southwest region. Coach Bana is yet to lost a game since being handed the top job of coaching Victoria United.
And that's it for today's edition of Prime News on My Media Prime. Thanks for being a part of the news or today's edition. Join us tomorrow 6:30 Cameroun time, God willing, for another edition of Prime News on My Media Prime. Faith Tatabereni coordinated the news, produced by Ewane Eli Nolinga. My name is Gienda Blanche King. I'm encouraging you to stay tuned to My Media Prime at 7 p.m. Cameroun time. Prime Hour will be live with Kmer and his crack team of analysts. Happy viewing and good night.